values. And not only that, we're a bank holding company, so compliance people are everywhere in the building. I've never really been in a situation where I've had to compromise my values as a Hispanic, as a person, as a woman, etc. So I've been very lucky to not have to be in that situation.
What about you, Dan?
There were times when I had to make decisions that, or let me back up a second. In the legal field, we have a saying which is, you advise, they decide. That's, I don't know if anybody else here is a lawyer or you've heard that phrase, but your role as an attorney is to advise your client. And ultimately, the client makes the decision. So there have been situations where I advised one thing, and my client decided on something else. Did I think it was marginal or maybe on the fence a little bit? That's what lawyers do. That's what we do. They tell us that in order to be a good lawyer, you have to be able to argue both sides effectively. So they put you on the defense side, and then if you've ever done moot court, they put you on the other side. And so you have to be able to argue both effectively and have good winning arguments. One thing that mentor that I mentioned that I met 15 years ago said to me early in my career was, always stick to your moral compass. And I told a friend, and I didn't remember, she had told me that, and one day I was sharing a conversation with a friend of mine who's in the financial industry. And I said, she told me this, always stick to your moral compass. And one day I was asking him something, well, when you're doing my taxes, do you really have to talk about that? Do you really have? He said to me, do you remember when you told me maybe, 5, 10 years ago, stick to your moral compass? Well, here you go. I was like, damn. That means I have to pay more taxes. But anyway, long story short, I think whenever we're faced with that situation, we really have to have just that inner voice that tells you, and we all know when we're on that precipice, when we may not be going in the right direction. So stick to your moral compass, and we're all pretty much raised with high moral values. So that's been my guiding light.
I think integrity is key. And I think about the times where I've been in a situation where I didn't think this situation was being handled with integrity. And I don't do well in those situations. And I end up being the defender and the protector, and I get in the way of the firing squad. And I sleep really nicely at night. It's career altering. It's limiting. And with age, I've learned that there is another option, which I will offer to you, which is step out of the room. Because there is an opportunity to step out of the room, because you can't get in the way of fire every single time. There are other adults in the room. So I will tell you, I sleep very nicely at night. I know what my moral compass is. It's the same as my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and so forth and so on. It's been very ingrained. And when something is not going right, it's not sitting well, and the one is like, hold on a minute. And I try to mediate as nicely as I can. And it's been very career limiting. And other times when I know that there is forces bigger than me, and that it doesn't matter how much I intercede, something's going to happen. Excuse me, I need to go to the restroom. And I use the excuse, and I go to the restroom. And I take 10 minutes, and I come back. It's like, did everyone decide? Is there a way forward? And everybody's in agreement, and I haven't really participated. I've excused myself because it's larger than me. Now, AMEX is a type of company where there is compliance and the ombudsman, and there's like 16 people you can call. And because it's not tolerated, it doesn't happen. There is a peer network that doesn't allow it to happen. There are many other environments where it does.
Great. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to open the floor for questions. Do we have some? I'm telling you, this is
A dream come
powerful.
true.
I feel Thank you so much. So now, questions.
We have our first question here.
First question.
Hello, good evening. My name is Jessica. I work at JP Morgan Chase in Human Resources. Thank you for everyone for putting this together. I want to return to the theme of mentorship and sponsorship, and specifically earning mentorship and sponsorship. Being in HR, many people call on me and want me to be their mentor, and I've met many people who are underprepared and don't want to work for that mentorship or sponsorship. And I want you to maybe it's everybody up there, maybe not. Anybody has a story of when somebody has sought them out to be a mentor or sponsor and has been underprepared, because I think it's something we could all use, and maybe a little tough love that everybody might better suit them when they're looking for their sponsor or mentor.
Who wants to take a stab at that one?
Your question is around, how do you gain a sponsor? Or I was trying to...
It's when they meet with you, right? It's, if I'm understanding it correctly, it's when they meet with you, is it worth your while as a mentor?
Yeah, what makes you make it worth your while? So you're in the position of being asked to be the mentor or the sponsor.
I usually ask for an agenda. And then I know how prepared that person is. And if they're not prepared, I would immediately say, well, I have 15 minutes, because I realize that their agenda items are not full enough for 30 minutes or an hour. But if they come with an agenda that's this size, I'm like, okay, let me manage your expectations. We can cover 2 topics, which ones do you want? But, you know, there aren't that many Latinas in a position of VP or above, to be candid. And so I want to give my time to anyone who asks, but I really expect that you come ready for the conversation. And so asking for the agenda, you know, 24 hours prior to the meeting is a nice way for me to be able to gauge if that person's really thinking about it and really going to take the best that they can out of me, versus me just setting time aside for a coffee chat. Like, if you want a coffee, I'll go for coffee at any given point in time, virtual or not. But, you know, mentorship is serious business, in my opinion.
Bella, you want to add anything?
Yeah, sure. I was going to say, I don't know if I expect an agenda.
I do.
I certainly,
I'm tough.
certainly like it very much when there's 2 to 3 questions that that person is ready to ask, and they come prepared with material either to show me or their resume to get my input on, or just something that shows that they're clearly prepared. But the other thing that I really like is kind of closing the loop, which a lot of people don't do. They'll take the 30 minutes and they'll set up the time with you, and you give them some advice which seems to resonate with the person, but then you never hear from them. And I want to help people. I want to help you. I think at least the culture that I'm in here, we promote mentorship. We expect that all of our leaders become mentors. And I want to help, but I also want to understand what the results of the advice was. So I really expect that there's a closing of the loop. Thank you. And 6 months later or 3 months later, here's what happened. Here's what I did with your advice. And that consistency of coming back, where we start to build a relationship. That's mentorship. It's a relationship. So it can't be a transaction. It can't be you come for 30 minutes once a year, or once every 2 years. That's not mentorship. So I expect there to be kind of a relationship, close the loop, and coming back.
If I could offer and compliment around that, so, I'd say similar to Claudia, I don't necessarily require an agenda. So.
Oh, bad. You're making me look really bad. This is not cool.
This is powerful.
This is not acceptable. I need an agenda.
So some of you may operate amazingly well with an agenda, and some of you are going to be free-flowing, won't have an agenda, but you know exactly what you want to address. Really important to be intentional and purposeful, because you're now utilizing someone else's time. Now, playing both sides of this equation, I think really well done. A mentor's engagement remains stimulating, remains committed when they see you taking action and you're making them aware of it. So it isn't about the mentor is going to save you, the mentor is not going to rescue you. They may not even intervene if you're drowning. So you need to have realistic expectations in how you broker that relationship. And there may be some mentoring relationships that are very informal and very short-term. So they may not be long-standing relationships. In fact, one of the things I say to people is don't tell the person you're meeting with you want them to be your mentor. Some people are actually intimidated and daunted by how much responsibility does this mean I have for your success. And I'm busy trying to navigate my own. So you've got to be able to understand and adapt to the style of individual that you're respecting and you're admiring. And I think you heard earlier that the more mentors you have, the better. If you have a mentor who wants an agenda, a mentor who's free-flowing, who wants a committed relationship, and then a mentor who doesn't know they're your mentor, but they're going to be insightfully straight with you. And if you're not pulling your weight, they're going to tell you really quickly, really rapidly to get your act together. And they do it out of radical, true love because they want to see you succeed. So really important, you've got to be willing to listen to what you're going to get and then work with that. We get very judgmental about how we want our mentoring, when we want our mentoring. Is it good enough mentoring? The responsibility really belongs with that mentee or protege. You're going to get gold, but you've got to create it from the relationship you're seeking.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? How about right there? Oh, the microphone is coming.
I'm still going to ask for an agenda.
Oh my God. Give me that rest.
I need to think about whatever it is that they're going to talk to me about. I need to ready myself.
Hi, my name is Monica Olgin. I work for Xerox, and this is actually my first Nishimba event, so I didn't know what to expect, and it's been great, so thank you all for being here. My question actually is along the lines of what I thought we would talk about today, and it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing that we didn't talk about it, so I hope people don't get upset, or I'm not quite sure what people are going to think about me asking this question, but at Xerox, I feel, and I work in Connecticut at the headquarters, right, in corporate, and I feel that, you know, the idea of, like, being Latina really isn't a big deal there. Like, they embrace diversity. I don't feel like I stand out because of it. I feel like everyone, if you just work hard, you know, you'll get to where you want to be. So I wanted to ask, you know, you all, has there been a point where that has actually been an issue for you? Because I haven't experienced it yet, but that doesn't mean that others don't experience it. So has there been a point where you've experienced like that, maybe an issue with being a Latina in a workplace that there aren't many people like you? And maybe if you haven't, you know, did you use it to your advantage that you were Latina and the certain morals or upbringings that you have, you know, you were able to use that in your career? If you could share something.
Lenny, do you want to take a start?
Sure. So I'm thinking through all my careers. Right now, being Latina is an asset.
Yeah.
For me especially. It empowers me with a cultural IQ that people who are not Latina don't have, unless they work really hard at it or they're immersed in it. So right now, for me, it's something that I have that some people don't have. That doesn't mean they can't get it, but it means it's something that's inbred, that basically I grew up with. But I don't think that that's something that you can sit on your laurels and rest on. And that's where some people get in trouble. They think, you know, I know it all because I am Latina or black or a woman or whatever the area is. So in my diversity role, it's been an asset. When I was practicing law, had no impact whatsoever unless I was called sweetie by a senior partner or by a judge, in which case it was a problem because there was a respect issue there, not necessarily because I was Latina. I didn't attribute it to being Latina, I attribute it to being a young woman. And the law field is pretty dominated up to the last, 20, 30 years by Caucasian males.